flood of money hit Idaho's May primary elections in a way the Gem State had never seen before. More than $3.6 million thrown at legislative races. And that's just in independent expenditures.
Specifically, what makes it an independent expenditure is it's a political committee doing things without talking to or coordinating with the candidate.
Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain has watched the dust settle after the primary. It's a scene now that could greatly change Idaho politics. For the average Idahoan, those independent expenditure spending came right to your doorstep.
It's typically the mailers that they receive in the mail attacking a candidate, or it's the television ads that are attacks, radio ads, similar things.
A fresh transparency dashboard from the Secretary of State's office shows the extent of it all. More than $1.5 million spent on broadcast ads, close to $1.4 million for things like mailers and brochures.
There was, in fact, more money against candidates came from out of state than money from in-state against candidates. And I think that's a change in perspective.
All of this not including direct campaign donations to and spending from the candidates themselves. And at the top of the financially impacted primary races, you'll find House Speaker Mike Moyle.
Oh, they love me. I was surprised, and it was out-of-state money too, and that concerned me, right? The fact that they think they can come into Idaho and buy these races is concerning.
$250,000 in independent expenditures, close to $200,000 of that from out of state for negative ads. Before the recent May primary, an average legislative race would garner $12,000. More high-stake races, maybe into the $30,000 range in total, but never something like this.
When the stuff started coming out and it was totally backwards of the truth, I'm like, this, when they were literally lying, I'm like, yeah, this is a problem, right? Because it's hard to counter that stuff, especially when there was so much of it. I had one neighbor one day, 6 negative flyers on me in one day, and he's like, this is ridiculous.
No surprise that high-profile races like Speaker Moyle or Senate Pro Tem Chuck Winder saw major attention, but this is a level few expected.
They tried to buy Idaho is what they did.
And it worked in some races.
It did work in some.
How concerning is that for you?
It's big time.
But it wasn't just for leadership races. Out-of-state groups keyed in on specific seats.
High-tax Kenny Roten.
Yeah.
Would you ever describe yourself as a high-tax man?
No.
Nampa lawmaker Representative Kenny Roten got a front seat to it all.
This was coming every day. Every day.
A barrage of postcards, flyers, and other mailers landed heavily in Roten's Nampa district, a byproduct of close to $100,000 spent against him by out-of-state groups.
It's hard to defend against that, really, unless you've got the same war chest as they do. You're really at a disadvantage.
The materials being sent out at such a high volume were hard to combat.
They certainly had a casual relationship with the truth, it seemed.
When you were knocking on doors, did you find people accusing you of things, or you have to defend yourself?
We did. There were times went out and I faced it directly, and people that were knocking doors with me said, oh, Kenny, he's too liberal for Idaho. I'm like, okay, that's one of the tags that was on one of the postcards.
Representative Roten lost his primary by a few hundred votes. His opponents' names, though, were rarely seen in the barrage of mail. So what was this about? Why would an out-of-state group even care?
I'm on the Revenue and Taxation Committee, which we stopped the school credit bill. And that seemed to be a real target. I had other legislators that faced the same thing as I did, that had the onslaught of negative ads.
School tax credits or school vouchers. That legislation died in a committee at the end of the session. Concerns raised about oversight and accountability on taxpayer dollars that would be sent to reimburse Idaho families.
It's part of a national initiative. You see, and you've heard about the bill mills and the sponsored bills, things like that. That's what we're looking at here.
You saw that with some of this stuff now. I think these out-of-state guys want people in these seats that will do what they're told. That's not what I want in Idaho, and I don't think that's what Idahoans want.
So the major money question, what happens next?
And I'm working on some stuff with some of the members here. We need more transparency. We need to know who's sending the money. I mean, I get that the U.S. Supreme Court has said I can't stop you from spending it, but I can make sure that I know who you are and what you're spending it on, and I can also do some stuff. I believe we as a legislature can do some stuff to make sure you're not saying stuff that's not true.
Once they see the success, I anticipate that there'll just be more of it. they'll just continue to do it. If they think they can just buy the candidates and have them just sign off on what they're doing, that puts the people of Idaho in a real bad spot.